It's the 10th of July, 2023. We're closing in on the special session and the red flag attempt at adding new infringements on the right of Tennesseans to keep and bear arms as intended by our founders. Here's another in our series of legislators' interviews on these issues. Let's get into it. My guest this morning is Representative Rusty Grills. Can you tell us what district you represent and what your committee assignments are?
Good morning, Richard. Yes, sir. I represent District 77, which consists of Dyer, Lake, and Obion County. I up in Northwest Tennessee. I'm the furthest north and the furthest west you're going to be and still be in Tennessee is my district. Reelfoot Lake, for those who are familiar with the Northwest Tennessee, is in my district. I serve on the Agriculture Committee. I am the chairman of the Agriculture and Natural Resources Subcommittee. I serve on the Civil Justice Subcommittee and the Civil Justice Full Committee, as well as the Transportation Full, and also on the Rules Committee.
What are your thoughts regarding the need for the special session that Governor Lee has demanded?
Well, I have different thoughts depending on what the question is. I do believe the governor has the constitutional authority, and I believe he has every right to exercise that. I'm not so sure that it's necessary to have a special session just because of what has taken place towards the end of session last year. And we don't need to make this about, if we have a special session, it doesn't need to be about the Covenant school shooting. It needs to be about all Tennesseans. But the general public is going to recognize that as the Covenant school shooting, and that's what we're in response to. There are several things we should be doing in order to protect kids, but there's also I don't know. I just don't think that it's something we necessarily have to do. But if the governor calls and asks for the special session, we have a constitutional duty to respond and to take it serious, because anything that's serious enough for a special session should be taken serious.
At this time, what are your thoughts regarding the red flag law or extreme risk protection order that Governor Lee is seeking to allow the government to seize guns from individuals who presently can legally own and possess them?
Well, I think it's dead on arrival. Just to be completely honest with you, I don't think there's a chance in the world that it's going to pass. Most of the people that are on the Civil Justice Committee, which I serve on, and that's one of the committees that extreme risk protection order should go through, I think it's dead on arrival. I don't know anybody down there that would vote for it in its current state. I don't believe that you need to be taking guns away from people. I think you need to be helping people who have those issues, because if you take a gun away from them, then they'll use a knife, and if you take a knife away from them, they'll use a baseball bat. If you're over in Leader Lamberth's district in recent history, a man went in and killed several people with an axe. You can't take everything away from everyone, because if you do, we'll have nothing except padded beds and padded rooms to live in.
What alternatives to a red flag or extreme risk protection order law do you think should be considered by the legislature?
Well, I think mental health seems to be cliche, but there's a lot of issues when we have with mental health. Tennessee, we don't have the beds we need. And you talk to sheriffs, you talk to different police officers, they'll tell you that they are struggling with their jails, because they're being filled with people who have mental issues, because they have no mental hospital to put them in or to admit them in. That there's a problem there. I believe we have a problem with our court system. We've had several discussions about things over the past couple of months about two people driving down the road. You have a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old. If a 20-year-old commits a crime and a 16-year-old commits the same crime, that 20-year-old serves a different penalty, and it's on his record for the rest of his life. But yet that 16-year-old who committed the same crime, when he turns 19, it's like his crime was written on a dry erase board and it's gone, been removed. Most people in Tennessee don't recognize that. And I know there's different scenarios that you could draw that may have different conclusions. But those are some things that if you're old enough to commit a crime like that, the crime ought to follow you for a while. I do believe in restorative justice. I do believe that we ought to create and craft a law that after a certain amount of time that would come off, and you could go back to maybe to having your voting rights restored or your firearms purchasing abilities restored. But if you're going to steal a gun at 16 and it was going to affect your life, if you'd have committed at 20, it would have affected the rest of your life. We need to be looking at some of the things like that. I hope that makes sense.
Do you have any other thoughts on these issues that might not have been covered in the previous questions?
I'm fearful when you do anything quick, especially when it comes to constitutional protections and constitutional rights. When you get in a hurry and you go out and you start trying to respond to people who have emotional concerns, and they're riled up over a situation and they have a huge emotional tie to it, and we try to respond as a legislature to satisfy that need or that desire quickly, you're going to mess up, and we're going to mess up, and that makes me nervous. And whenever you have a special session, there are rules that are suspended. There are rules that are, and everything is. It's not just regular how the sausage is made. It's it's a turbo, and it's hard to keep up even for us that are in there. I can only imagine what it's like for the public to try to keep up with the day-to-day operations or the day-to-day changes from bills, how amendments are being filed, and just the different processes. So that makes me a little bit nervous when you go into something like this. But at the end of the day, Richard, the best way to protect individuals is to give them the opportunity to protect themselves. Over and over and over again, we see good guys with guns preventing crimes because bad guys with guns decide they do not want to commit the crime that they were originally intending to, because they know that there's someone there that has the ability to push back.
Representative, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I think it's important that our membership across the state be able to see and hear from our legislators who actually serve on these committees that have something to do with what's fixing to happen. So I thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll have you back on later in the year after this special session's over with.
Well, I look forward to it, and I thank you for your positions. There's no doubt about it that you put plenty of time in, voluntary time into these issues, and you do your research, you've got your facts, and you keep up the good work and keep us informed.
If you learned something today that was beneficial, hit the like and subscribe button. It helps get our message out and sell the brand. Check back for more content as often as you can. You can find our website at www.tennesseefirearms.com. If you are new there, click the subscribe button on that page as well to receive free email updates about issues that affect your Second Amendment rights in Tennessee.